I want to thank, as I get here, I want to thank our staff. I want to thank my offensive staff, because this is truly an honor to stand in front of you all. But it couldn't be done without the men that I work with each and every day. And before I get into my staff, I really want to thank our athletic director, Ward Manuel, our assistant athletic director, Doug Gattis, for giving us an opportunity, for believing in us as a staff, and not faltering when things got rough, and giving us a chance to ride this wave out that we truly believed that we could.
Jumpy, a little bouncy in my chair there. Welcome in on this Monday. That was Josh Gattis, Michigan's former offensive coordinator, and some happier times for sure, thanks to the Royals Award for the audio there. That was his acceptance speech, getting the assistant highest honor you can get in college football as a coordinator, the Broyles Award, and he was the winner this year. Yeah, it's the Maize and Blue Review. We're here every day at 1 weekdays, talking about what's going on with Michigan. Plenty of things going on with Michigan, as you know, as they look for a new offensive coordinator. They're looking for a new defensive coordinator. We will get to that. Michigan picking up a commitment over the weekend, and in the memorabilia minute, we'll do the memorabilia NFT style Senior Bowl edition. So we've got that all to get to. We'll start with that big news over the weekend, and that's Josh Gattis going to the U, taking the same job that he had at Michigan. So at the very least, a lateral move, considering where Michigan's at right now and where the U's at. You can make a case that that's not so much a lateral move, a little bit of a step down there for Gattis. But, the U's got some attractive things, one being the weather. But so, people want to, what happened? What happened? Why would Josh Gattis go to the U? And, Josh Gattis, if Josh Gattis just had said he was looking for something different, and he was going on down, the weather or whatever else, you just say, hey, it's one of those things. But, Josh Gattis, airing some dirty laundry, taking some shots. And so, you have some clues there. And, for me, it's one of three things. I mean, you just have to ask yourself, and, you can listen to people who, are saying they're behind the scenes, and, this is the lowdown, and, this is it from a Michigan perspective. Of course, you'll have a lot of people from, the outside, that are going to have their opinions. So you have to figure it out. And, here's what I think. It's one of three things. One, it could be like I was talking about, that Josh Gattis just wanted to change the scenery. And, he liked the warm weather, like what was going on down in Miami. And, now it's the time to do that. So he took the lateral move. Could happen. That's one. Two, it could be that when Jim Harbaugh was interviewing for the Vikings job, and there was some uncertainty about what was going on in the football building, that, people all of a sudden had to get their ducks in a row, and had to be looking out for themselves. And Harbaugh, getting however close you want to say he was to the NFL, could have been very close. And if you're down there in that football building, who was going to be the next head coach at Michigan? Was, Josh Gattis a candidate? If he was a candidate, what did he learn about his candidacy? Was he going to be the next Michigan football coach, or was it going to be Mike Hart if they were going to stay in the football building and to stay, with the staff, or was it going to be Sharon Moore? Was he one, two, or three when it came down to that? I think he was number three when it came down to that. And, that can hurt your feelings, and it can do more than that. It can say, look, if I'm here and I just won the Broyles and Jim Harbaugh is leaving it, and I'm not going to be, and I'm coming in third here, then I don't want to be here. It could be that. And number three, it could be something else that is not public knowledge. And that could also, create a little bit of a rift there, with the football program and why he wanted out. So, which one of those three do you think it is? You can always join us here, participate in this broadcast by using feedback. If you're on YouTube, use a message down there. I put the message up. If you're on Facebook, you can do the same thing. Twitter, you can, I'm not sure. I mean, I have Twitter myself. You can see my Twitter handle at Dennis15. You can leave me a direct message. You can also tweet at me during the show. Let's see if I can check that. But you can always get in there and have something to say. Like, George has weighed in immediately, saying all the best to Coach Gattis. Negligible loss, more for more, Weiss, Hart, and Bellamy. George putting Bellamy, the safeties coach, already on the offensive side. And that wouldn't be a surprise to me, George. It sounds like you know a little something that's going on already. But, yeah, you might be right about Ron Bellamy, who was a wide receiver over at Michigan. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a wide receiver at Michigan. Then a head coach at Bloomfield came in and looked like he was going to be a wide receivers coach, but then they had some movement around, and, Bellamy went over and was the safeties coach. So he could be wide receivers coach. That would make a lot of sense. Here's Treppa saying some have reported there's a lot of nickel and dime stuff going on with assistant coaches at Michigan. I think that's what Gattis was mad about. Yeah, look, well, when it comes down to nickel and diming, so here's Jim Harbaugh, who you would think is in line to get whatever he would want after the season that he had, and considering what his peers just were able to get, and that's Mel Tucker, $95 million, James Franklin over $70 million. So and there were also some thoughts that Harbaugh wasn't getting Tucker money. So and there was also the part that maybe Jim is using the NFL so he can get some more things like name, image, and likeness, like more money for a pool for his assistants. That that is also a possibility when it comes down there. I think that if Michigan really wanted Josh Gattis, that and it was coming down to money, that they would have been able to find the money for him. Now, there's nothing against the people that are reporting that. I'm sure they've got people telling them that, and everybody looking for a little bit of an angle. And really, when it comes down to say, well, you want the correct, what really is it? Like I'm saying, the best of my knowledge, it's all three of these things. And, Harbaugh going to Minnesota and telling, the recruits knew it a month ago, as he was telling, was it Clemens, the wide receiver's granddaddy, that story came out, that quote from I think Clemens' grandfather that that he asked the Harbaugh. And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to entertain NFL offers." Well, the staff knew that too. So that's whether it's going to put you on edge or at least think about, hey, am I going to get promoted here? Where do I fall in line? Who's interested in me outside? Maybe I start looking here. I think that's part of it. I think that if you're a Michigan fan saying, no, that was everybody was just standing in there, nobody's looking at any. I mean, like that is part of it. Like you say there's like I thought that Jim Harbaugh, of course, he was in his rights, and did he do it as well as he could? Talking about trying to flirt or look at the NFL, and he told recruits, he told the coaches, who's up front, Ward Manuel. Of course, Ward Manuel had to know if he was going to interview. I think he did a pretty good job at telling everybody, his intentions. It gets a little messy when he doesn't have an agent that can feed, the media all of the inside information there, and it's able to get out that way. Where you got to rely on people that are just close to Harbaugh and that aren't necessarily in the media, and then they got to relay it to inside. That gets a little messy. Let's be honest about that. And, there is a downside. It wasn't all like, hey, Jim's going to be Jim and, let him go and, check out the NFL. And, the most important thing, he's back and we're good to go. And, there's nothing that's going to happen here. Well, I mean, there are things that could happen. What could happen? Well, there could be, recruits that looked at it that maybe didn't look at Michigan because of that. And we don't even know about that. And, it's the same thing with the coaches. The coaches got antsy and started looking around. So I think that was part of it. And the other thing about him, when you say airing dirty laundry, well, the Gattis did. This is like you could say, people have left jobs and stuff, and the coaching fraternity and NFL and college is a very close circuit. So you should watch what you say here. But Gattis had a text get out. This is Tom Van Haren tweet that he put out over the weekend. Actually, it looks like yesterday. And Van Haren says, in a text to some Michigan players, Josh Gattis said, quote, "Unfortunately, the past few weeks have told a different story to me about the very little appreciation I have here from the administration. In life, I would never advise anyone to be where they are not wanted." Now, I said the administration. He just said from administration. He missed the, but hey, it's a text, I'm not the grammar police. Whatever. There it is. So, the administration, who's he talking about there? If I had to read between the lines, I mean, if this is not connecting the dots, then this doesn't take a gigantic leap. Jim Harbaugh was going to the NFL, Josh Gattis, and rightfully so. You can look from the outside. He is the offensive coordinator. Who are you going to look? If Jim Harbaugh leaves, you say, if you're going to have a coach, an internal hire, which, Michigan that's very well the place they could have gone, is right on the current staff, considering, what was said about the staff, the kind of year that they had and everything else. Well, who are the guys you're going to look for immediately? You're going to look for the coordinators, the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator already left to the NFL, went to the NFL, and Mike McDonald. So, you saw the reports like, hey, Josh Gattis would be one of the leading candidates. I think that is true. And so when it came down to it and he wasn't getting the, that kind of love, I could understand exactly, that could, whether it hurt his feelings or, make him want to look elsewhere. The last few weeks, well, we know what's happened over the last few weeks, and that did accelerate or at least unlock, when you have the head coach looking elsewhere, you better. And I can't just sit back and say, well, let's just see what happens with Jim Harbaugh. I'm good to go. You look around. And so when, people start looking around and they start talking, it could have just been as much as when he says the administration, I'll say that was Ward Manuel saying, hey, you know what? You're not going to be the next head coach at Michigan if Jim Harbaugh leaves. And I think, to me, that is what's going on, here. Now, you can say, why wouldn't Josh Gattis be a candidate that Michigan would have looked at over Mike Hart, over Sharon Moore? I would have put, the two guys that I just mentioned there, Hart and Moore, in front of Gattis. Well, that's where it gets to number 3 on that list, where I said there's something else that's going on here. And you know what? Gattis, aired his dirty laundry here. Sending that. Did he not think those texts were going to get out? Of course, I think that he did know that was going to happen. Bad move by Josh Gattis. This could be something down the line. If you are considering him for a head coach, you say, look, how you leave a job and then go into another one. And hey, sometimes things happen. He was leaving. He just said, look, it didn't work out. And he didn't even have to say anything about Harbaugh. People understand that. But when you start saying this, why wouldn't Michigan consider him to be the head coach? There could be some things there. And when you air your dirty laundry, people are going to then air yours. And, there is some that you could say is dirty laundry for Gattis. And you don't have to go, that far back and take a look at it. So, he's made his own bed there. And for him, I think, unfortunately, he's going to have to deal with that because people are going to say, well, what's going on? And, it's not the kind of stuff that you want to be public knowledge. It's not the kind of stuff that people want to talk about. But when you get out there and things aren't necessarily adding up and you say something like that, well, then people are going to look and they're going to try to find out. So, there you go, Josh. And, if I was his agent and he would have said, he was getting ready to leave. And he said, look, I'm going to, contact and, send a text out to my former players. I would give him the advice. Don't really say anything negative about, no, let me go back. Josh, take the high road. We're heading down to the U. It's warm weather. Just say you're looking forward, to the next step and say thanks to Michigan for everything. Don't do that. This is an example of what you don't want to do. It doesn't do you any good. People are going to dig up your past, and then in the future, this guy wants to be a head coach. When you're a head coach, it's more than what you just do out on the field and the X's and O's and everything else. It's like, all right, well, what's going on? How does he present himself? What's the deal with his family? All these different things. And, the first thing that he's going to have to deal with, let's say, Miami has an excellent season and, he does a really good job as an offensive coordinator and has a real good feel for play calling like he did this year. A fabulous season by Josh Gattis. And he's up for a head coaching job and you bring him in. The first thing, are they going to say, hey, Josh, great job? Are they going to say, what's this about? Why did you have to put this out there? That's going to be the first thing. So, he messed up. That's not something you want to do, out the door. And there you go. So now Michigan is looking for an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator. How's that going to affect the Michigan football team? Well, this is going to have an effect. Can you find an OC and a DC that can do the job? Yes, you can do that. But the one thing, and when I heard it all off season, I chalked it up to, okay, I've heard this all before. But it became the theme. And the theme for Michigan is why they had the success this season was they were reinvigorated. And they had a young, energetic staff. And that young, energetic staff went and played music, during spring ball. There was enthusiasm out on the recruiting trail. So when you start losing guys, and they lost an analyst, Osborne, to the Ravens. They lost McDonald. Now they lose Gattis. They lost their defensive line coach. That's a lot to lose when you chalked a big part. At anyone that talks about Michigan football that you have read, listened to, this year after the season, when they were asked, what was the reason for this Michigan turnaround, they all said the same thing. Harbaugh's staff was young and energetic. So when you lose that, that's, doesn't mean that like they can't find the replacements, but it's what is it, an issue? No, it's a concern. It's a legitimate concern. So if you're listening to somebody that's talking about Michigan football and they gloss this over and act like, no, are you kidding me? This is no big deal. Jim Harbaugh, just throw anybody in there. Now, then I don't know why you would listen to somebody like that. But if you just like to be fed, like, maize and blue, positivity, you like, eating at the table of maize and blue positivity. I get that. A lot of people do. So there's no problem with that. But I'm also not, pulling up to the maize and blue negativity table and being like, well, Jim Harbaugh screwed himself and screwed his staff. And then, now they're going to spiral downward. So, and it's not always, somewhere in the middle, but in this case, I think it is. And the thing that I look to the most, Harbaugh's back, which is good for Michigan. I think he's the best man for the job here and moving forward. Also, when I look at the roster, I mean, this offense that Michigan has locked and loaded for next year should be the best in the Big Ten, maybe one of the best in the country. That's how good they are, taking a look at them on paper. Now, they don't have to replace a lot. We know the personnel. Ronnie Bell's coming back in the fold there. They are loaded offensively. So that is one thing. The next thing is you start looking at that schedule. It's not like they're sitting there, playing Alabama game one. They're playing Colorado State. And then they're, playing Hawaii and UConn. And, with all due respect to Dan Orlovsky's a school there, I think Michigan is going to be a 20, 30-point favorite. They should win those 3 games. That's an easy non-conference schedule. Michigan doesn't have to play Wisconsin this year. Their crossovers, as taking a look at it, Illinois and Iowa. They can win those games. They got to go to Iowa. I know that Iowa's, hopefully that game's not at night. But that's winnable. you want to make a case that Michigan, they got Michigan State at home this year. Well, that's going to be tough. Rivalry game. I'm not over here talking about, but I'm also not talks coming in. Going to win. No, I think Michigan can win that game. They probably should win that game. And so you can easily, make a case that Michigan's going to be undefeated going into the game against Ohio State. They've got a chance for that. But at the very least, you can say, well, one is they got an explosive offense returning, and they got a very manageable schedule. Those are the most important things, as we sit here. Now, whoever Harbaugh brings in, there's also a chance that they can, they could be worse coaches, but they could be better. So, and as an OC that we just talked about with Gattis at the controls, and, I'll credit Josh Gattis this year. He did a fantastic job as a play caller, as offensive coordinator. And you know what? In the offseason, when he was asked, about the Michigan offense this year, I thought, I'm not listening to Josh Gattis because you know what? He was like, we're going to get out there and we got to be more physical and run the ball. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Why don't you just pull a quote out from any Michigan coach over the last 100 years? That's what they all say. But you know what? What he said was true. That is what they tried to do. They were more physical. They did run the ball. That was the key to Michigan's offense. But it's more than that. As a play caller, you sit in there, of course, it's a collaboration with the other offensive staff and the head coach, but you're the guy, and the feel for making the calls, and whether it was against Wisconsin and that flea flicker to Cornelius Johnson, how they ended up working the quarterback rotation and how that worked. I know it almost backfired, and you can suggest it did against Michigan State, but the Mona Lisa was the Ohio State game. I mean, we go back. I've watched it more than once. The play calling in that game was it couldn't have been any better. I mean, that was a Hall of Fame game plan. It was executed to perfection, and Josh Gattis deserves all the credit. Now, his first 2 years there wasn't a lot. I didn't, all those nice things that I had to say about him in the first 2 years. There are a lot of things that I didn't like, about Gattis and whoever he was picking at quarterback, his ideas and everything, even going back to that, first game against Middle Tennessee, there were a lot of things not to like. But, the next guy could come in here, doesn't have an empty cupboard. And in fact, it's chock full of, of great talent. So, that's where I am at. Callie was excited for this season. Losing McDonald and Gattis is a kick in the what. Well, I think initially it is, but just like when you do get a kick there, it really stings at first, but it wears off. It wears off, Callie. And, you're saying how bad does it set them back? It depends who you're bringing in. And you got to give those guys a chance. And like I just said, Gattis did a great job. And McDonald did a fantastic job this year as well. You always get to this thing. Would have Ajabo had the kind of season and impact that he had if there was another defensive coordinator? I don't know if they didn't change up to a 3-4 that McDonald wanted to run. I'm going to give McDonald the credit for that. And the next defensive coordinator, unlike Gattis, is not walking into a room where he can just say, hey, guys, roll the football out there. This next defensive coordinator is going to have to, there's some talent here, but it's unproven. And again, Callie, I'll make a case that there's not going to be a setback here because of the chance for this coordinators to get in and ease themselves in with a nice, I'll say, soft non-conference schedule and a very manageable Big Ten schedule where I don't think that, I don't know if they say that miss a beat, they'll roll into Columbus undefeated. I mean, that's the idea, but there is a chance at that. I think there's a pretty good chance at that. And yeah, I picked them to lose 4 games last year, but there's a lot of things that you like. More from the feedback here, Trepa. If I'm a recruit or parent of a recruit, I'd be concerned that such drama would come out after the most successful season in 20 plus years. What's happening now is self-inflicted and not necessary. Well, I can't argue with that. There's going to be the negative recruiting part. What I would say to recruits or fans a lot of that when you get on, from people from Ohio State and Michigan State, yeah, and across the country, they will say that. I think in that same conversation is that, Harbaugh did say that this was it. This was the last of it. That new contract, why it hasn't been signed yet after it was all prepared, anything else, you might want to go back if you're Ward Manuel and company and look on that language about, escape clauses and buyouts and, bulk that up. And you could say, you know what, Jim's not going anywhere. Jim's not going anywhere because he, one, gave his word, whatever that's worth to you. And the other thing is that, teams aren't going to want to spend, this, big ass buyout. So, I mean, that's the other side. I mean, you can go with the coach's word, and you can also have language in that contract. But yeah, I think the self-inflicted part, if there's somebody, there's going to be people ranting and raving about it for sure. But there is some truth to it. I mean, if Harbaugh's not out there and he's able to, he's not out, dancing with the NFL, then maybe this doesn't unlock Schembechler Hall where they're starting to look about who's going to be the next coach, and then, Gattis stays put. You could easily make that case, and there's truth to it. So, it being self-inflicted, I'll buy. So there's a little bit of, it's not all just easy street. Michigan's got everything going. Gattis was out anyways, you want honesty, or you want this, what's table are you sitting at again? Trump, it sounds like you're sitting at the table of responsibility and of being able to weigh both sides, which is hard to do. And, Trump, adding they lost Courtney Morgan from the recruiting department. Facts. There you go. One more here from Irvin. Darius Clemens is going to be a superstar, 6'3", 220. He is fast. He can play wide receiver and tight end. He was recruited by every school out there. Yeah, Irvin, I think that's facts. I mean, if you're asking who I think the freshmen are that could come in and make an immediate impact, I am looking at Clemens. Amarian Walker, Tyler Morris. The only thing is, Michigan's really loaded at wide receiver. But I also thought they were loaded at wide receiver this year. And then Xavier Worthy, up and bolted to Texas. Ronnie Bell got hurt in the first game. And next thing you know, all this superstar and depth and, Giles Jackson hit the transfer portal. And so, yeah, Clemens, your point is, I don't know why I'm tearing the position apart and everything else. But yeah, I think Clemens is a star in the making and could play immediately. And the thing that I haven't looked at Walker, and Tyler Morris was hurt. I watched a little bit of his film. He looks really good. It looks like he can do everything that you would want. And so it is a stacked wide receiver room. But why I would pick Clemens over all those other guys is just taking a look at him. He looks like physically. He looks like a senior. It's there. He's you want the build. It's not like you're looking and saying that he needs to hit the weight room or anything. He looks like he is ready to play. So there you go. So that's where it's coming down to when it gets to all of this. It is drama. It is going to have an effect, and that is the part we'll have to say, well, we'll see. It doesn't necessarily mean whoever the next offensive coordinator is, defensive coordinator, it doesn't mean that the DC is going to be the next Mike Macdonald, and he's got a taller task than Macdonald. The next offensive coordinator is coming in a great spot. I'd love to be the offensive coordinator coming in. I'd like to be the agent for the next offensive coordinator, because I'd say, you know what, you can go in there and you have points per game. You can have one of the best offenses in the country. Go to Michigan. It's a great spot. And you know what? Maybe it'll be Matt Weiss, and maybe it should be, and that's what it sounds like. It probably is going to be. And he's was the quarterback coach this year, came in from the Ravens, and he's supposed to have the analytical background. My only advice to Weiss is don't take and he loves John Harbaugh. And then it's fine, John Harbaugh, I love John Harbaugh too. Don't take John Harbaugh's whatever the analytics came down to at the end of the game, where Baltimore's got the best kicker in the NFL than Tucker. And, they were down there twice, going for 2 at the end of games. I'll get to the part where you say, I don't care what analytics say. I don't care what analytics say if you have the best kicker in the game, and Michigan's returning the Lou Groza Award winner in Jake Moody. You have a really good kicker, and unless you feel like you're some big time underdog, maybe if Michigan was playing they beat or they got down to the end at Georgia and they just thought, man, there's no way we'll be able to go into overtime with them, and Jake Moody stubbed his toe, and they had to. Well, I could get it then. That was a long way to say don't go for 2 at the end of the game. I know Hoke did it against Ohio State, but you know what? Michigan, there was a big-time underdog there. And I like the call there. It's not every time that I don't like the call. I like the call when Hoke did it against Ohio State. It didn't work with Devin Gardner. I didn't like it either of the times for Baltimore this year. And because Weiss is a, John Harbaugh disciple, and he is an analytics guy, I like going for it on 4th down and everything else, but not against, not at the end of the game, not when you have a good kicker, and not if, you're looking the other team in the eye there and you feel like, you can get out there and you can execute on offense. That's it. It's my word of advice. Words of advice for probably the next Michigan offensive coordinator. Take it or leave it, Matt. I'm not the only one that thinks that way. I'll tell you that. All right. Michigan recruiting spotlight every day, some kind of recruiting tidbit. And then this time around, and tell you that Michigan has gone out there, and what they have been able to do is get their 5th commitment of this next season. We went to the 2022, and that's been put to bed. Now they're on to 2023, and Michigan got their 5th verbal over the weekend. And Cole Cabana is from Dexter. Fun fact, that's where I live. And that's where the studio is here. The Peach Mountain Studios are right here in Dexter. So here's my guy, Cabana. There you see, 4-star all-purpose back, 6 feet, 180. Yeah, he's going to have to bulk up a little bit. There he is. He had the got the verbal. They got that down there, 2.5. And, the thing that is not sitting right here is that he has sub 4.4 speed. I mean, this guy's a speedster. And if that's legit, and, now Michigan has 5 scholarship running backs. CJ Stokes, who's coming in as a freshman, Tavier Dunlap, who's a freshman, Donovan Edwards, who's a sophomore, and then Blake Corum, who's a junior. We're not going to see Cabana this year, but probably see a little bit of Stokes. And, it's that 1-2 combo. I liked Hassan Haskins. Everybody did. He had one of the great senior years, or one of the great Haskins wasn't necessarily a senior, but how you look at that. Fantastic year by Haskins. But, Corum, the combination of Corum and Edwards, I don't think there's going to be a huge drop-off from the running game. And there you go, Cabana. And, I'd like to see him race against Donovan Edwards, maybe Andrell Anthony, and maybe Roman Wilson, see who actually is the fastest on the team. But just like Donovan Edwards, who's got that great speed. And you saw, Edwards this year bust out against Maryland, had those 10 catches for 170 yards. That's 77-yard TD. You can catch the ball. You got some speed coming out of the backfield. Let's go. And we know that position's changing around a little bit. I watched, 5 minutes of the Pro Bowl, which was a joke, the 2-hand touch game that they were playing. But part of the 5 minutes, they were talking to Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is like, yeah, wide receiver, running back, let's go. Put me in the backfield. Let's do it. Cabana, he could be that kind of running back for sure. All right. Another thing that I wanted to get to for you here is that I wanted to look at the memorabilia a minute. And every day I look at something for a minute. A lot of times they're old pieces of cardboard or magazines or football helmets or whatever else. But also you had the Senior Bowl this weekend. And part of the Senior Bowl, the players, this is the one I wanted to show you. This is the new thing in collectibles, NFTs. And there they are, the NFTs. The players that played at the Senior Bowl got the NFTs as tokens of appreciation. Now they get the video, their own video there, their own personal video, and then it is, however it's worked through the blockchain, however you describe it there, and they can sell it, to the highest bidder. They can hang on to it, depending on, how would I want a Andrew Stuber NFT? Sure, I'd like to take a look at it. If they had another view of him driving an Ohio State player into the ground, I think that would be a pretty cool NFT to have of Andrew Stuber. But if you look here, the Panini, they're involved in cards. What I thought was interesting here, just at the bottom, in another college athletics NFT deal, 7 schools announced a new partnership with Recur, a digital collective startups backed by Steve Cohen, the Mets owner. I'm reading the text here from the story. Those schools include Florida State, Mississippi State, Texas Tech, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, Utah, Michigan State, getting in the digital collectible marketplace. And Recur plans to launch its NFTU, digital collectibles marketplace, in 2022. Now, what I would say about NFTs is that I've been waiting for Michigan to get involved in this themselves. I don't know why Michigan just doesn't have their own cameras, why they don't shoot their own videos, and why don't they just make their own NFTs up? They don't need a Recur to do that. They've got enough people that could come up with the blockchain and be able to do it themselves. I'm just not sure why they haven't launched their own. Now, Tom Brady, the recently retired Tom Brady, he's got his clothing collection, but Tom Brady's involved, among other things. I know he's involved in crypto, but I also think he's involved in NFTs. Maybe Brady, you keep hearing, and I'm tired of, am I tired of it? Yeah, I am tired of it. I'm a little bit tired of hearing how, just wait, Michigan's ready to jump into the NIL. And, 6 months ago, I heard that, NFTs were coming. Well, they let the whole season go by. Why didn't Michigan have a camera down there on the sideline? And why weren't they shooting video and having NFTs and having them available? They just let money pass right by them, which that doesn't make any sense to me. But they must be thinking about it and getting ready to plan something, having, a lot smarter people than me, and maybe even you out there watching, involved in Michigan and name, image, and likeness, and all the different things that they can go out there, and there's a package to put out there that's, going to turn heads in the recruiting world. And, Michigan could go, from what are they doing with the NIL to, oh, here's what they're doing. So we wait for that. But I think NFTs would be part of it. And, I'd say at some point, like, I thought like a month before this signing day would have been the time to go ahead and, launch that and get some of that out there. They've done a little bit, but, they can do a lot more when it comes down to it. So that's where that's at. I'm going to do a lot of basketball this week, starting tomorrow. Michigan's playing 3 games in 5 days. It starts tomorrow night. Penn State comes in. Michigan has to win that game. They have to beat Purdue on Thursday, and then they have to beat Ohio State on Saturday. They can only afford to lose 3 more games, and they have 10 left. So you start looking at they lose to Penn State. Like, I don't think they're going to make the tournament anyways. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. But if they're going to, they can only have 3 more losses in the regular season. So you start taking a look at winning at home, and road games that they can win. Penn State would be one of them. It's a must win. Thursday, Purdue, can you lose twice to them? Yeah, but then you're going to have to go on the road and beat Wisconsin. Could you do it? Sure, you can. Likely? Probably not. So we'll talk more about that coming up tomorrow. Thanks for the feedback. As always, on Twitter, you have some kind of question for me or something else. My DMs are open there. You always can participate with the feedback. A lot of people taking advantage of that today. So leave comments, rant, do all those kind of things. And until tomorrow, that's it. We'll be back here 1:00. We'll be getting after it. And until then, everybody have a great day. That'll do it.